The spoiled heirs scheme. The price of ambition. The Morgan family appeared picture-perfect from the outside. Richard and Eleanor Morgan had built a successful real estate development company from scratch, raised 2 daughters in their sprawling suburban home, and were known throughout the community for their philanthropy. Their daughters, Cassandra and Abigail, were as different as night and day, a fact that would ultimately lead to the family's most challenging crisis. The sisters. Cassandra, the elder daughter, had been indulged from birth. Her tantrums as a toddler evolved into demands as a teenager and calculated manipulation as an adult. At 35, she maintained her expensive tastes through a series of relationships with wealthy men, none lasting more than a few years. Despite her business degree, she'd never held a job for more than 6 months, always blaming workplace toxicity or incompetent management for her departures. Abigail, 3 years younger, had developed a compassionate nature early in life. While Cassandra demanded the spotlight, Abigail found fulfillment in helping others. She'd worked her way through college, earned a law degree, and now served as general counsel for a renewable energy company. Unknown to either sister, Abigail had also inherited a substantial fortune from her maternal grandmother when she turned 30, money placed in a blind trust that continued to grow. The changing tide. Richard and Eleanor had always tried to love their daughters equally, but as the years passed, they couldn't ignore Cassandra's increasingly troubling behavior. When she borrowed Eleanor's credit cards for a weekend shopping spree, they confronted her. When she convinced Richard's elderly aunt to change her will, they intervened. Each incident was followed by tearful promises to change, but the pattern only escalated. Gradually, the parents began to distance themselves. They became more guarded with financial information around Cassandra. They changed the security codes on their home. They started declining her emergency requests for money. Cassandra noticed the shift. Where once she had been their princess, now she found herself increasingly excluded from family decisions. Her assumptions about inheriting the family fortune began to seem less certain. The scheme. The catalyst came when Cassandra discovered through a careless comment from Richard's executive assistant that her parents were considering early retirement and planning to transfer control of their company to Abigail, who had occasionally provided legal counsel to the firm. Fuming with jealousy and desperation, Cassandra devised a plan. She began dating Marcus Wells, a junior partner at her father's bank who had access to the Morgan accounts. Through him, she gathered information about her parents' finances, including the trust structures they had established. Simultaneously, she began planting seeds of concern about her parents' mental health. At family gatherings, she would subtly draw attention to Eleanor forgetting minor details or Richard misplacing his keys. She suggested they seemed confused about business matters and perhaps needed more support with decision-making. Over several months, Cassandra meticulously built her case. She arranged for a sympathetic psychiatrist to briefly meet her parents at a dinner party where she had drugged their drinks, ensuring they appeared disoriented. She falsified documents showing questionable financial decisions. She even convinced Marcus to help her create a paper trail suggesting Richard and Eleanor were being manipulated by unscrupulous business partners. The master stroke of her plan involved forcing an emergency conservatorship hearing, presenting herself as the concerned daughter while painting Abigail as too busy with her own career to notice their parents' decline. The investigation. What Cassandra didn't know was that her parents had noticed her increased interest in their affairs. Years of managing her manipulations had made them vigilant. When Eleanor's prescription medication seemed to make her unusually drowsy after a family dinner, she had it tested, revealing traces of a sedative. When documents went missing in Richard's home office, the security camera he had discreetly installed captured Cassandra searching through his files. Most significantly, Cassandra remained unaware that her father maintained a separate set of books documenting every time she had borrowed money without repaying it, forged signatures, or manipulated financial documents. For years, Richard had kept meticulous records while hoping his daughter would change. As Cassandra's scheme accelerated, Richard and Eleanor consulted with their longtime attorney, who recommended bringing in a forensic accountant and private investigator. The evidence they uncovered was damning. Cassandra had taken out a second mortgage on her parents' vacation home by forging Eleanor's signature. She had redirected company funds to an offshore account through a series of sophisticated transfers. She had used her parents' identities to secure business loans. She had been laundering money through a fake charity she established in her mother's name. She had set up fraudulent insurance policies naming herself as beneficiary. Most disturbing was the discovery that Cassandra had accessed her mother's medical records and planned to use Eleanor's history of mild depression as evidence of incompetence. The web widens. As the investigation deepened, Abigail became unwittingly entangled. Cassandra had used Abigail's professional reputation to lend credibility to certain documents, forging her sister's signature on legal opinions. She had opened accounts in Abigail's name to create a money trail that would implicate her sister if the scheme unraveled. The most painful discovery came when financial records revealed that Cassandra had stolen the ultrasound images from Abigail's recent miscarriage, a private heartbreak that Abigail had shared only with her parents, and used them to create a false narrative that she herself had lost a baby due to stress caused by her parents' erratic behavior. Through it all, Abigail remained unaware, focused on helping her company through a difficult merger and privately grieving her loss while trying to support her husband's struggling restaurant business. Confrontation. The hearing for the conservatorship arrived with dramatic timing. As Cassandra presented her carefully constructed case before the judge, with tearful testimony about her parents' supposed decline, the family attorney requested permission to present counter-evidence. What followed was a methodical dismantling of Cassandra's fabrications. Bank records showing her embezzlement. Security footage showing her stealing documents. Medical tests proving her parents were perfectly competent. Testimony from business associates confirming Richard and Eleanor's sharp acumen. Most damning was the revelation of Cassandra's relationship with Marcus, who, facing his own legal troubles for banking violations, had agreed to testify about their scheme in exchange for leniency. Cassandra watched in horror as her parents, far from appearing confused or frail, presented themselves as the shrewd business people they had always been. Eleanor addressed the court with clarity and composure, expressing her heartbreak over her daughter's actions but emphasizing that love could not excuse criminal behavior. Abigail, called to testify, was stunned by the revelations. When shown the forged documents bearing her signature, she broke down, realizing how her sister had used her reputation and personal tragedy in the scheme. The aftermath. The judge not only dismissed the conservatorship petition but referred the matter for criminal prosecution. Cassandra faced multiple felony charges for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and financial elder abuse. Marcus and several accomplices also faced charges for their roles in the scheme. During the criminal trial that followed, evidence emerged of even deeper deception. Cassandra had previously attempted similar schemes with two former boyfriends' families. She had established a pattern of targeting wealthy older individuals, creating false health concerns, and manipulating financial documents. The jury found her guilty on all counts. The judge, noting the calculated nature of her crimes and the betrayal of family trust, sentenced her to 15 years in prison. For the Morgan family, the healing process would be long and complex. Richard and Eleanor grappled with the painful reality that their daughter had been planning to effectively imprison them in a medical facility while stealing their life's work. They established a foundation focused on protecting elderly individuals from financial exploitation, turning their personal tragedy into a mission to help others. Abigail, though initially devastated by her sister's betrayal and the use of her miscarriage in the scheme, eventually found strength in helping her parents rebuild. The inheritance she had never mentioned, which had grown to a substantial fortune, remained untouched as she continued to make her own way professionally. The most powerful lesson came from Eleanor, who visited Cassandra in prison despite her husband's objections. When asked why, she simply said, "She is still my daughter. I need to understand how we came to this place, even if there's no way back from it." In their sprawling family home, now quiet without the drama Cassandra had always created, Richard and Eleanor Morgan found themselves reflecting on the choices they had made as parents. They had always prided themselves on treating their daughters equally, but perhaps, they wondered, they should have recognized earlier that their children needed different things from them. Love, they learned, was not just about giving equally, it was about seeing clearly.